Welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Nikki's Natural Wipes, the first all-natural baby wipes made with Manuka honey and coconut oil. And today's episode is also brought to you by Fairhaven Health. Are you leaking breast milk in between feedings? Now you can collect that milk rather than throw it away in your breast pads. We'll hear more from our sponsors later, but these sponsors make this podcast possible. Please head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and check out our sponsor page. If you need anything, check there and see if you can give them your business. While you're there, scroll down and enter your email address and get episodes sent straight to your inbox every Monday. And now Dianne has our review of the week.
And it comes from iTunes. And it comes from Kathleen12, I believe that is. Sorry if I butchered your name. And she's a first-time mom. I'm a first-time mom. Hearing your content has definitely put me at ease. I listened to the alcohol podcast, which really answered literally all of my concerning questions. Thank you for the clarification. I'll definitely tap into other topics you have on here. Thank you. And that alcohol podcast, that is like in our Hall of Fame, that podcast episode.
It is. I feel like we should do an updated one.
Maybe we should, yeah.
Just like, just to kind of make it a little more like, I don't know. Just do the same podcast again. I don't know why.
Just so we can say that it's like updated info.
But
I don't know.
I know. I don't know if it's good the way it is. I feel like in that podcast though, the one I didn't like the one thing that I don't think I said was not to sleep with your baby if you've been drinking.
Oh, I think we said that.
Which always kicks me. I don't think we did in that episode. I don't know.
Because I usually say that.
I know we say it every time now, but
yeah,
I feel like in that particular episode, we were just focusing on like the milk, like the alcohol content in breast milk.
Which is really, and if you guys are listening right now and you haven't listened to that alcohol episode yet, definitely listen to it because it is educational for sure. It's not just like, okay, go ahead and tie one on. It's like totally educational.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that review. And I'm glad you found us. And I hope you have listened to some of the other episodes and that we've answered some questions for you. And she left that on iTunes, which is really helpful. You can send us an email at badassbreastfeedingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can put it on iTunes, whatever works. And we love to hear from you. So thank you so much. Today.
Yes. And today we're talking about how much baby should be eating. Because no one knows.
No, it's a mystery.
And it's very confusing. And most people, if you have not thought at any point that your baby's not getting enough to eat, then you're lucky.
Yeah.
Because most people at some point are like, oh my God, I don't think they're getting enough to eat.
I remember feeling like that with my first. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I think with the twins, I was just too overwhelmed with having too many babies to even like worry about it. But I think I very, very clearly remember with Nathan thinking like, is he getting enough? Is he getting enough? And my sister was like, watch the diapers. And I'm like, that tells me nothing, which of course we know it tells everything, but it wasn't enough for me. Like I needed something more concrete.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's more concrete than a wet diaper, but whatever. But it's overwhelming and it's nerve-wracking and you just want to feel like you're doing the right thing. And then you have people saying, is the baby getting enough to eat? How much is your baby getting? You can't tell how much the baby's getting.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right. And it either because they're small or because they're fussy or because they're, any number of behaviors or anything, or just because they're breastfeeding at all. Oh yeah, you're probably not getting enough. You're probably not making enough. The baby's probably not getting enough. And then we start supplementing or we just straight up quit and decide that it didn't work out and we couldn't make enough. It's a really big problem.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about how much should your baby be getting? How much should your baby eat? Since that is the burning question. And usually, with breastfeeding, we just kind of go with it. I mean, babies, I think one of the coolest things that go on with breastfeeding and one of the hardest things for people to wrap their heads around is that babies take what they want when they're breastfeeding. It is not a set amount every single time. They are not eating 4 ounces every single time they eat like they would with bottle feeding. So I think that's really hard for people to understand that some feedings might be longer, some feedings might be shorter. Sometimes they might just want to have a drink. Sometimes they want a meal. Sometimes they want a snack. It's all variable, but at the end of the day, it all adds up to what they need.
Right. And even that like example of the 4 ounces in the bottle is like, that's even too much for some babies.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's just an example. But even with bottle feeding, that seems like, for some babies, that would be too much at a feeding.
Who did I talk to the other day? I was talking to this mom. Oh, God, I can't even remember like who it was. But somebody told her that her baby should increase by half an ounce at every feeding.
What? Starting in the morning and then just be having like 15 ounces at the end of the day?
And she was like, that doesn't seem like right. That's right to me. I'm like, because it's not right at all.
This shit is so made up. I mean, I can't even get over how much stuff people just make up. They're just pulling stuff right out of their ass.
I know.
Like when you have that ribbon clown that has like a ribbon and they start pulling it out of their mouth and just like it's like 100 ribbons. This is breastfeeding information, except it's out of your asshole and it's just coming from us. People are just pulling. My God.
It's insanity.
It's unbelievable. The amount of things. I can't even. Oh my God. Yeah. People say crazy thing. I was messaging you stuff the other day of like things that people were saying to this person. I can't even remember what it was now. I'm going to look.
Because I remember being like, just stop, just shut up because I can't even take it.
Yeah, right.
It is just ridiculous. And none of it has any kind of merit whatsoever at all. When we talk about how much, and then when people put like very stringent labels, your baby should be getting this many ounces a day.
Oh, yeah. Right. So this has nothing to do with anything, but I'm going to say it because I brought it up. So this person messaged me and was like, my wife was at the pediatrician and the pediatrician told her that should be wiping the baby's tongue off. They should be taking a washcloth and wiping the baby's tongue off after each feeding. And I'm like, huh? Like, did they say why? Well, I guess because it's white. So you get the white off. Huh?
Like, whatever. Because there's not enough stuff to do,
stop.
Right?
I know. I can't. What? I don't like if you care about your babies, the color of their tongue. What?
I know. And then you
like
said
I've
that to
heard
me.
It before. Like I've heard dentists be like, you should wipe their teeth off after every feeding. Whatever. I'm not even going to say it. Don't do it.
Don't fall into that trap.
Yeah. But like that, I can even be like, okay, well, dentists are like, freaky about like keeping your teeth clean all the time. And they would tell you too, like brush your teeth after every time you eat. Do you do that?
No.
Fuck no, I don't do that.
But yeah, and you said it to me and I'm like, what's the point of that? Like, what's the point? But I feel like we just blindly, like nobody ever challenges this information. We're all just like, oh yeah, oh, okay, I'll do it. And it's like, because we think we're doing the best thing for our baby, which, okay, I get it. We want to do the best thing for our baby. Nobody wants their baby to be hungry. Nobody wants their baby to have any issues. Nobody wants their baby to have a white tongue. I don't know. Like we just blindly do it. And nobody questions, where did this information come from? Where did it come from?
The doctor also told that same family that they should be stretching feedings out during cluster feeding.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay. I don't care. First of all, don't stretch the feedings out ever. But like, especially during cluster, your baby's trying to nurse more. And then you should, so your reaction to it should be to like not let them.
It's like torturing them.
Cluster feeding is for a reason. And oh my God, what? Again, here, another one of those like poop covered ribbons just pulling out of their butts at the office. What are you talking about? And then these people are so confused. Oh my God. Okay, I'm done.
It is. It's confusing because then you're getting all this mixed information. And it's just ridiculous.
All right. So how much should our babies be eating?
So basically, on average, and we know average means you could have under that or you could have over that, right? This is an average of 25 ounces a day from month 1 to month 6. The average is 25 ounces a day.
Which does not mean half an ounce in the morning and then 1 ounce an hour later and then 1.5 ounces 2 hours later.
No, not even close to that. but the typical range is anywhere from 19 to 30 ounces. And it will vary depending on growth spurts, depending on what your baby's doing. It really does vary. And that is okay. That is one of the cool things with breastfeeding is that you don't know what your baby's getting every time, but they do. And that's what matters. They know what they're getting.
And that's in a 24-hour period.
24-hour
That's not like
period.
woke up in the morning before you go to bed at night.
Right.
That's like 24 hours. Yeah.
And, I feel for the parents that have to pump and leave milk, like if you're going back to work or, all of that, because you are trying to balance around like, how much should I leave? How much should the baby be getting while I'm gone? How much is it, And so sometimes I will pull these numbers out when people question it, when it comes down to like leaving milk for the baby when they're at work, because
then you have to know. You have to know how much to leave. Yeah.
But people are giving care providers are giving 12, 13, 14 ounces in a couple of hours. And it's like, that's half their daily intake just in, in the first 5 hours of their day. Like, that's unbelievable. They're not going to breastfeed when you get home.
Right.
Like, you really have to kind of take that into consideration. You don't, they're not just like these little, I don't know, like these little endless.
They don't have a hollow leg.
Yeah. See, as soon as you said that, I had this visual in my head of this little, I don't know, pirate baby or something. With this hollow leg.
That's just where they just dump it down.
Right. And that's not good for your baby.
No. And people always say, well, they took it. Well, they took that much. Yeah. Babies just do that.
I take more than I need all the time.
Right. And if you're pace bottle feeding, they don't do that.
Right. So, yeah, check out the pace bottle feeding episode.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what the pace bottle feeding is, because that is really important if you're giving bottle.
But that's the thing I think about about breastfeeding is that we can't measure it. We live in this culture where we are obsessed with black and white, being able to measure things, being able to, have things calculated, being able to measure and calculate. And with breastfeeding is the complete opposite of that. Breastfeeding is this thing that's, thousands of years old, that is, a part of our biology. And it's not based on our modern day measurement and calculations. And it just feels so anxiety provoking, I think, because of that. And we just doubt everything. We just assume that it's not happening correctly because we just don't have these concrete numbers and this concrete way of understanding it. And we can't just let go of every way we are of being, of calculating and measuring things and just let it happen, because that is so counterintuitive to our way of living now.
Mm-hmm. And it's really unfortunate, because a lot of people will stop breastfeeding and just go to pumping, which is fine if that's your choice. If that's what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. But when people choose that route just so they can see what the baby's getting, I feel so bad for them, because that is definitely you've fallen into this trap that we've set
and
here.
And it's much harder.
Oh, it's so hard.
It is harder. It's so hard to just be pumping all the time. And you don't see some people have dogs at home that have a litter of puppies, or if you live on a farm, or just, understand, mammals in nature. These animals are not oh my God, am I making enough milk? It's probably not enough. Let me go get the cat to help me, supplement, and I can't, these kinds of animals, I think people also forget that we are exactly the same as them.
Exactly.
We are these weird ass mammals who have developed this consciousness and built buildings on this world, and but we are exactly the same, biologically the same as all the other mammals that are just breastfeeding their babies. and don't have any way of questioning it or thinking about it. It just happens.
I mean, the vet isn't sitting there going, I don't think this mother is making enough milk. We need to.
Right? Your vet doesn't do that to your dog.
I mean, it's just natural. It's nature. And yes, there are situations that arise where people, have difficulty with breastfeeding or making enough milk, but that is not as common as people would make you think it is. It really is not as common as
as
people
and
think.
So much of the way that people are not successful is because they don't have the right information, and they have people in their faces giving them the terrible, terrible information.
Yeah. Like that really is what it comes down to, is the information is really bad, or it's really old, or it's really old and really bad, which is what I had happen this week with that one mom that I had, which I'll talk about after we do our break. But it's so common, and it will destroy your breastfeeding relationship. And that's sad.
Yeah, totally. We'll totally destroy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Should we do ads?
Yeah, let's do ads.
Okay, everybody. We'll be back with how much your baby should eat. Today's episode is brought to you by Nikki's Natural Wipes. Nikki's was created out of the passion of two new parents wanting to protect the health of their precious new baby, Nikki. Conventional baby wipes contain harsh chemicals that can lead to redness, itchiness, dry skin, a burning sensation, and even blisters and urinary tract infections. Utilizing the miraculous antibacterial qualities of Manuka honey, combined with the proven ability of coconut oil to moisturize dry skin, Nikki's has set a new global standard for premium baby wipes. The smell and feel of the wipes is unique, 100% natural, ethically sourced, EWG certified, and biodegradable. Check out the first all-natural baby wipes made with Manuka honey and coconut oil on Nikki's.com. That's Nikis.com. And use code BADASS10 for 10% off of your purchase. And today's episode is also brought to you by Fairhaven Health. The original Milk Saver is designed to wear on the opposite breast while breastfeeding, but sometimes we're leaking in between feedings when we are on the go or at work. The Milky's Milk Saver on the go is a discreet and comfortable breast milk collection system that requires zero effort on your part. You simply slip them into your bra while your milk collects inside them. When you're ready to empty them, you pour your collected milk into a storage bag to add to your stash or to use for any dozens of uses for breast milk. They cannot be seen under your clothes. They are small enough to carry in your purse and reusable. These can be used to protect sore or cracked nipples while they heal, as they create a small, open, and protected area around your nipples. Save your precious breast milk, money, and the environment by cutting down on even eliminating the use of breast pads. Breast milk is worth saving. Check out Milky's Milk Saver on the go at fairhavenhealth.com. That's FAIRHAVEN health.com. And use code BADASS for 15% off of your purchase. And these sponsors and their promo codes can be found in our show notes under this episode on badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. Our show notes will also include further information about things that we talk about in this episode. And at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, you'll find our breastfeeding resources, all of our other episodes, and information about scheduling your very own one-on-one online lactation consultation with Dianne. And now back to how much your baby should eat. We got the 1 through 6, right? One from day 1 to 6 months.
Well, from 1 month to 6 months. So of course,
1 month
from, and this, I run into this a lot because
not day 1. Your baby's not eating 25 ounces.
Oh my God, no! But people will totally give that to their baby if they could.
Yeah.
So I see babies, a lot of times like on day 3 of their life, and people are really confused about how much milk they should be giving their baby at that age. And I think it's really important that people remember that your baby at that point is not like, they don't really necessarily know, like, I'm full. Like, that's a new sensation. When your baby first comes out of the womb, like, they have to figure a lot of stuff out. They really do. And feeling like that sensation of feeling full and that sensation of being hungry, like, those are very new. And it might take them a minute to get that a little bit figured out. So you're kind of, in control of how much they're eating. Their suck reflex is involuntary for the first 3 months of their life. So if you give them a bottle, they will take a bottle. I think that's a really important thing to remember, because they'll take, even if they're not hungry, they will continue to take that bottle because they can't help it. It's an involuntary suck reflex. So these babies are newborn, and they'll come in and we'll do a weighted feed with them, and they'll take like half an ounce. And it's like, that's good. Your baby's 3 days old, 4 days old, half an ounce is appropriate. It doesn't mean like they can't hold a lot of volume. Their stomach is still really small. So they're taking little bits at a time. And that's what we have. Like some parents get really, really concerned because their baby is eating every 2 hours and they haven't stretched out to 3 or 4 hours. And maybe they're 4 months, 5 months, 6 months old, but they're still eating every 2 hours. That's okay. That's your baby's pattern. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your milk supply. And I think that's another thing that our society does, is that we really go, well, your baby eats frequently. There's something wrong with your supply. Right. That's just what your baby's doing. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with their supply. It's just their pattern. And that's okay, because that's normal and it's allowed. I mean, you can't force your baby to eat. I think we talked about this on one of the other podcasts. Like, you can't force them to breastfeed if they don't want to feed. Just like you can't necessarily stretch them out if they want to eat. You can't make them
latch on.
Yeah, you can't make them latch on if they don't want to. And you can't make them not eat. Like that whole, stretch them out if they're cluster feeding. How do you even do that? I don't even know how you would even do that.
You just hold a crying baby.
It's ridiculous.
Because you don't want them to be, because your doctor told you to not nurse them as frequently as they want to. And so they're crying because they want to latch on, and you're just standing there holding them crying.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So the one I had this week was a mom with a 4-month-old, and wasn't, which the gain has slowed down, which is normal for a baby that age. But the pediatrician that she saw, who wasn't her typical pediatrician, it was somebody that was in the office, told her, take the baby off the breast, pump for 2 or 3 days to see how much milk you're making, and give that to the baby. And that'll tell you. And if you're not making, I don't know, it's like 26 ounces or something, then we'll know that you have to supplement. And I was like, first of all, that's the worst advice you could ever get. Ever. Like, I came right out and told her, I'm like, that's the worst advice you could ever get. Because what you pump and what you are making are two completely different things. And the fact that pediatrician doesn't know that is really sad. But whatever. So what it doesn't matter what you pump. What you're pumping is telling you, all that tells you is how much milk you pumped. It doesn't tell you how much milk you're making. It doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Right. No.
So it's like, you can't go by that. And if you take the baby off the breast to just pump, then you're risking taking away from your milk supply, because the pump doesn't stimulate the way the baby does. So that's the second problem with that, as if we need any more reason to say don't do it. And then the mom was like, well, if that's what I have to do, I'll do it. But it seems like, she's like, it's just so much work. I don't know how I'm going to pump every time. Exactly. Why are we giving our parents more to do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just put the baby to the breast and let him eat. It's just...
Put the baby to the breast and lay down.
Right.
This is what I know. And people are so overwhelmed, and so, people are so overwhelmed. And the cluster feeding too, people are overwhelmed by it. They're overwhelmed by all of the nursing. And that's okay. I mean, it's normal for you to feel that way, because you shouldn't be doing, the problem is you shouldn't be doing anything else. I mean, I know that you have to. I know that we live in a world that does not support any of the things that we say on this podcast. All the things that we're telling you to do, you can't do.
We're like the fantasy podcast.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Nothing.
And in the fantasy world, like in the world, again, where you see your dog gives birth to a litter of puppies, she lays down and those puppies just nurse.
Yeah.
And she's just laying there. And that's like what you should be doing. Again, I know you can't, but like, some people won't even, and we can go, like, again, refer to our co-sleeping episode. Some people won't even lay down with the baby.
No, they're too afraid.
They're too worried about rolling on the baby, falling asleep, and all this stuff. And check out many of our co-sleeping episodes about that. But like, that's how you deal with that.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, this baby will not stop. Here I go. Let's go lay down.
But that is normal. The cluster feeding is very normal and expected. And I tell parents that all the time, like, because they're like, should the baby still be cluster feeding like this? Is this really like a thing? And this is, somebody asked me that the other day, and the baby's like, I don't know, a week old. And I'm like, yeah, that's expected.
That's like all they know.
Yeah, that's expected and normal behavior for a newborn baby. But when they might ask their, friend, their neighbor, their doctor, whoever, my baby's eating all the time. They say, oh, well, they shouldn't be doing that. Maybe you're not making enough milk. And yes, they should be doing that, because we know that babies breastfeed for many, 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 many reasons, which is another thing that goes along with this whole, like, how much milk does a baby need? Like, this is not the only reason why your baby's feeding. Your baby is at the breast for many reasons, not just for the milk. The milk is just a bonus. Like, they're getting so much from being at the breast that, they're getting milk too, but we tend to just focus on, oh, they're getting milk or they're not getting enough milk. They're not getting enough milk. Take them off the breast, because that's not important. They don't need to be there. If they're not getting milk, they don't need to be there. It's like, that's not true.
No. And it's such a it's such a wonderful thing to be able to like foster that nursing for comfort relationship too, because that will for years be a solution to everything. They're crying, put them on. They fell down, put them on. They're tired, put them on. You got to be on the phone, put them on. Like, it's just like the answer to everything. And people are like, oh my God, they're too clingy. I'm making them like they're not self-soothing. They can't live without. No. Opposite. It's awesome. Anytime that they want to nurse, let them nurse. It's going to like benefit them the rest of their lives. So what happens at 6 months?
Well, at 6 months, I mean, the game kind of changes a little bit, because then you're starting solids. So although we know, and we've done episodes on solids, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 episodes, I think, on solids. And we know that when you start solids, as soon as you start solids, that doesn't mean you're breastfeeding less. I mean,
it doesn't mean they're getting anything in their mouth.
Right.
Either.
It's just you're starting solids. So, I think that's probably why they do everything up to like, I feel like everything that's measured with breastfed babies goes to like 6 months. And then
right. And then that's the other. Yeah. Then there's another misunderstanding that your baby's going to start eating a bunch of food and be nursing less. And people are surprised when things don't really change. The only thing that really has changed is that baby has started painting with sweet potatoes or bananas
all over everything.
Yeah. And your people are like, well, wait a minute, but they're not eating enough. And now my doctor said that they're not eating enough solids and that I should stop breastfeeding so much so that they'll eat more solids. No. That's more bogus information.
Yeah, your baby at 6 months, and they're really not taking, they're probably still going to stay within that, around that 30 ounces, even at 6 months and moving forward, because your breast milk changes with your baby. So you don't necessarily need more volume. And we did an episode, God, I'm going to be like tagging a lot of episodes on our show notes today, but we did that episode not that long ago about how your milk changes when you get older, when your baby gets older, not when you get older, but when your baby gets older, how much the milk changes and what happens to it. And it becomes more concentrated, and they're still getting everything they need, just in smaller amounts. And that is what happens.
And they're nursing super fast now. So that's the other thing. People are like, well, they were only nursing for like 5 minutes. So they must not be, because it doesn't take a 7-month-old baby more than 5 minutes to eat a lot of milk.
Right. I wouldn't expect them to be on all day like a newborn.
No, they're not going to hang out there the whole day. They're going to be probably moving around all day. Maybe, nursing probably to the point of you worrying again that they're not nursing enough. And then nursing a lot at night, which is going to make you worry as well. But that's all normal.
All normal. And all normal. I saw somebody the other day who was like, but the book. She goes, I keep going by the books. The book said the baby should be doing this. The book said the baby should be doing that. The book said, and I'm like, The baby didn't read the book. Like, it just doesn't go by that.
I'm
Like,
not into burning books, but all those books can be burned.
I hate those books. I mean, they're fine to give you a little bit of like structure, guidance, but to say, oh yeah, your baby is 2 months old, they should be eating this many times a day now. They should be getting this much milk and they should be sleeping this many hours. Like, that is toxic information to put out there as a blanket statement for every baby that's ever roamed the planet should be doing these things at these times. That is not accurate information.
That's a recipe for panic.
Oh my God. Just to make you more anxious.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that's going to do. Because now your baby isn't following this magical guideline that was set by some human that doesn't know your baby, that just wants to like sell books. It's ridiculous.
Right. People could say whatever they want. And people do say whatever they want without having any of the actual information.
Yeah. And then it comes out as a freaking clown ass. Scarves coming out of a clown ass. That's what it is.
And so does this not rule, but averages, does this stay with bottle fed babies too? Will they be eating similar amounts?
I am not. I don't know, because I don't know what bottle fed babies do necessarily. You know, I mean, I think honest to God, like from what I've seen, and I don't know if it's been correct, bottle fed babies tend to get more because they need more, because the formula does not change to accommodate their needs. So will see bottle fed babies getting 8 ounces per bottle, which is a lot. Or maybe they'll do 8 ounces, per bottle. Yeah, I think they definitely take more. Yeah.
Well, but also sometimes breast milk is in the bottle.
Right.
And so if somebody is pumping and they're going to work and their babies, are they continuing to provide the same amount in a bottle after 6 months?
Yes. Keep it at 4. Your baby should never go over 4 ounces if it's breast milk. The only time I would see a baby going over 4 ounces of breast milk is if they're not eating every couple of hours. And that's the other thing. Like, if somebody says, oh, well, this bottle fed baby over here, or my friend's baby who also gets this, milk at daycare, is getting bigger bottles. Well, maybe their feeds are stretched out. You have to think about it that way too. If somebody is feeding your baby every 4 hours at daycare, but they're eating every 2 hours when they're with you, yes, you probably do have to give them larger amounts, or tell the daycare to feed them every 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like us. If you eat a big meal, you're going to go a little bit longer before your next one. Yeah. It's the same thing with babies. If you put more in the bottle, they're probably going to stretch it out longer, which is not necessarily a good thing for breastfed babies, because we want them to breastfeed more frequently, because that's what they're used to doing. They're used to taking smaller amounts more frequently.
Well, and that's this trap with supplementing too, right? Is that we're feeding them, we're supplementing either with breast milk or with formula, or sometimes a mixture. Mm-hmm. And then, then we try to nurse them, and then they're not hungry and they're not nursing and they're fussy at the breast. And then I feel like we were just recently talking about this. And then we're like, oh my God, we're not making enough. Or, oh, he prefers the bottle.
Yeah.
And hates my breast now. Or he's lazy because the bottle is easier. That's the biggest thing. I think people are like, the babies, it's like they don't have to work as hard to nurse as the bottle is so much easier. So they prefer that.
It's not true.
No, your baby prefers to nurse. They just, if you're supplementing, they might not be hungry.
Yeah.
And then your supply will take a hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely will take a hit. So you really have to be like, yeah. So sometimes these numbers are good to know if you're in that kind of a situation where you're like, okay, I need to leave milk for babies. And it's good to know, okay, your baby is probably going to take somewhere between 25 to 30 ounces, if they're over a couple of months old. But if you're just home with your baby nursing, try not to worry about it. I'm not going to say don't worry about it because everybody worries about it, but trust that this is working. Trust your baby. If your baby wants to eat, let him eat.
And that we also have an episode on signs that breastfeeding is going well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, your baby's getting enough when they're just like peeing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're hydrated.
Yeah. And that's, you just have to know when you're breastfeeding that you're not going to be able to count their ounces every time, and that they're peeing, and then they're happy and they're getting enough, and they're not always happy. But
no, sometimes they're just
not your fault.
No, it has nothing to do with the milk. Nothing to do with it. But yeah, so that's it.
Thanks, Dianne.
Well, thanks, Abby, for that clown reference that I'll keep in my brain forever.
That's how I see pediatricians now. It's just like a red nose, and they're like rainbow wig.
Oh my
God. Rainbow wig. Pulling ribbons out of their buttholes.
Oh, so bad. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye.